Ready. Okay. I'm Bob. I'm a compulsive overeater from St. Louis, Missouri. Uh, I came by that title, that label fairly easily. I mouthed it at my first meeting because everyone else was saying that, and that was the obsession of Bob's life was, not be an outlier, even though I knew I was. So when I came into that first meeting, there was four ladies sitting there, and they all went around and said, "I'm a compulsive, overeater." I got that part down. Did I get down pat what we do to recover from that? That first meeting? No, and mildly. Did someone tell me what they were doing uh, to recover from this disease? Undoubtedly. And I do believe that that first person was a 90-dayer. Uh, I didn't know 90 days from 90 seconds as far as recovery went. So, uh, and my mind was running, at full speed. And every tool she told me that she used, she didn't tell me this is what you must do. Every tool she told me she used was, uh, I had a whole litany of excuses why I couldn't do any of that. And, uh, and I think the saving grace was, uh, I think one of the last ones she told me was meetings, and I of course told her about my complicated schedule on the railroad, and there was only 5 meetings. There was a limited number of meetings, and uh, she said, "Well, you can go to an open meeting of AA," and I didn't have an excuse. My mind actually they had been wiped clean of excuses at that moment. So I'm going to talk about action. And for me, I'm going to distinguish it a little bit from one of our tools. We have an action plan, and that's a compilation of daily things I'm going to do to maintain my abstinence today. Uh, when I first came here, this was not a sedentary program. This was not something I could just come into meetings and absorb this by osmosis. Uh, they have a saying that meeting goers make it to meetings. If I want to recover, I need to do more. I needed to take action. And that uh, I was not ready to do anything that was out of my comfort zone. So to say that I delayed the start of my recovery would be putting it mildly. And just so uh, there's no mistaking that I didn't stumble uh, into the wrong rooms here. Um, That was I was probably in my mid-30s then. I'd sworn I never going to go above a size 38. You can see that I should have by that time definitely gone above a size 38. Uh, uh, the This was probably pretty close to the day I entered OA, and there was a lot more of me then, and my expression kind of um, gives away my mood at that time. My whole uh, self-image basically was in the toilet, and it wasn't because I had anything going on in my life. I found out uh, eventually that this disease isn't measured by the degree of obesity, by my any family dysfunction. It was that I wanted to stop eating too much food and eating it at the wrong times at beyond my will, and I could not do it. And I could not do it by myself. And so the first thing I eventually did after, I mean, I've been riding the treadmill for quite some time, and like a treadmill, I have an elliptical bike sitting here. Uh, you're pumping hard and you're not moving, and I that had taken the shape of a rack of diet books. I had a memorial library when I moved here about 11 years ago, those all went to the Salvation Army because I wasn't after a number of years doing this. I realized I was just hoarding at that point in time, and maybe someone could use them. Someone had said, "Oh, that's what causes this. That's why there's so much of me today." Gee, I didn't know that, and now I'll change the way I eat. And there are people like that. My dad had three bypass surgeries in his late 50s to his early 60s. And my stepmom, I guess she did some reading or whatever, or doctor told them, I don't know what they did, but they just changed the way they just changed the way they ate. And my dad got down to a healthy weight. I think it was maybe 30 pounds overweight. Uh, uh, got down to a healthy weight, and he lived to 94. Uh, Obviously, my genes did not come from that side. I believe my mother struggled uh, for a long time. Were there different circumstances back then? Uh, yeah, I became a victim. I chose to be a victim of processed food near the end of the day. Was that the issue back in the 60s? Not as much, not as much. But so I came here. I started going to meetings. Um, and what happens here, I know they say go to 6 meetings to decide if OA is for you or not. Uh, I honestly didn't see it much progress, and I didn't really have a choice. You know, we're in a different world today with the internet, uh, and I can probably uh, sample 10 different meetings at every little time slot through the day. In Albany, New York, I think we had maybe in the metro area, uh, had maybe uh, 20 meetings a week. Uh, and I did have a rather weird work schedule. And so I went to a lot of meetings, and and what people were sharing then and what I have to share today is the action I have to take today is I have to share what happened to me. There is nothing shameful in my background that I can't share. What was shameful to me was that I couldn't control this on my own. Uh, and that I've been trying to prove to people in my life that I could control this. So I'd love to tell you that I reached that point of desperation once, and it's been all up hill ever since. Uh, no, I've had to hit bottom several times. And finally, the first bit of action that I took, because I, at that point that I came in these rooms in 1996, uh, I uh, hadn't been able to even start a diet earlier that day. And I was able. When I left that meeting, I was able to start that diet. And I continued on that seesaw. Lose weight, gain weight. Lose weight, gain weight. And so I wasn't really proving much. I think I came to work one day and and I know ladies won't identify, but men do not, particularly in a blue collar workplace, we do not talk to other men about our weight. That's it. Just you know, everything is fine. Doesn't matter the outward appearances of me destroying my body. Everything is fine. And I came in. I'd lost 60 pounds. So people do congratulate you because what willpower you must have had about what willpower. And of course, I'm the weight's going north again. And one of my not so good friends said very sarcastically, "I see you fell off your diet, Bob." And I'd like to say that was a body blow that couldn't take. I started putting the first action I took was starting to put my name on the We Care list as it circulated. Well, there was On the list we had then, there was one column you could check if you were available to sponsor, and there was another column you could check if you needed a sponsor. And I didn't check either because I was too much of a fraud to sponsor, and I wasn't going to let control. And so I started checking it. I need a sponsor. Now, mind you, I looked around the room to see who was looking at me. Uh, Within 2 weeks, I went to a meeting. There was a man there. I swear it had to be the first man ever to show up at an OA meeting in Albany, New York. And and afterwards, we made a little small chatter, and a little icebreaker. Where are you from? Boston. Oh, I spent a lot of time in Boston. Bob, do you need a sponsor? It was about that quick. His sponsor told him, Mister, if you don't get sponsees quickly, because he moved from Boston, you will overeat again. Very bluntly. And again, the memory drive was swept clear. I was not ready for that. Then I realized I've been checking that column. He'd probably seen that. He had not seen that. He was on a march, and he said, I can show you what I've done. If you want it, I can help you. And we sat down, uh, had some paper, and he dictated a food plan to me. Uh, that was for the first time in my life, I believe I sat quietly. I did not, at that point, I did not ask him about the nutritional value of things. Later on, we got into this intense discussion, of course, but uh, I knew what a waste of time to ask him. I'd had doctors giving me nutritional advice, and my response to that was I stopped going to doctors. And so uh, I know one day I called him from the supermarket 5 times. He did tell me, call me any questions. After the fifth call, can I have this? Can I have Bob? Why would you want that? And I didn't call him as much. There was enough in that supermarket. Mind you, 99% of it is off limits because part of this plan is no flour and no sugar. Uh, but I was able to move forward. All right. Case closed. I'm done. No, nothing more has got to be done. Well, there's a little problem is I have an obsession. It's not just what happens to me when I put this certain foods in my body. It's why do I start down this trail? Why do I go off diets? At this point in time, I'm white knuckling this thing. It's not a pleasant place to be, and I'm white knuckling it because uh, I'm able to white knuckle it because I have a sponsor, and I'm still obsessed with what you're going to think of me. I don't want to. I'd heard enough people say at meetings that, just keep coming back no matter what. But my ego wasn't going to allow me to come back and tell you that I failed. And well, guess what else you hear at meetings? I started to hear it. It was being said from day one. I'm sure it was. They talked about how we work these steps, how uh, we get a sponsor. Now, my sponsor was about 6 months abstinent. We did not talk about a lot of step work. And he eventually he broke his abstinence. I'm not going to go into depth or take his inventory on that. I got another sponsor. He was in Boston. We continued to work. He continued to work with me on the tools and the food plan, the action I took there was to commit every day. Uh, I finally got to a place I knew what had to become next, and I asked a man to sponsor me. And he said the same thing. If you want what I've got, do what I do. I can help you. And again, I finally sat obediently. It's, I think it's God's sense of humor that, by the way, these sponsors I've had, every single one of them has been at least 15 to 20 years my junior. Uh, you know, I think it helped shrink my fat head quite a bit. I can sit there obediently and listen to a young punk tell this accomplished person, in my field that what to what to do. But that's not what they were. They were sharing what they did. If I didn't want it, they weren't going to spend a lot of time with me. You know, there were people looking for this recovery. And a lot of the action I went through these steps. I don't need to describe. That's uh, another day, another workshop. But the journey revealed a lot to where I'm at today. Uh, there's no attraction. I just finished my lunch before my scheduled lunch, committed lunch before this meeting. Uh, Part of the kitchen's closed. The dishwasher is still open. Uh, my dear mother, what a slob I was. She must be looking down and saying, "What did I do wrong?" I mean, it was clean up after yourself, make your bed. I was just a a whiny, selfish brat. But uh, and I worked these steps to get to that point. So is the case over? I'm done. I've this one-time journey through these steps. Well, as you they all interface, particularly 4 through 12. Uh, we uh, how do I do step 10? I was instructed in
4 minutes.
thank you. I was instructed how to do that in 4, 5, 8, and 9. How do I respond to events as they happen in my life, many of which are unplanned. I was not planned to be in Missouri. No offense to you Midwesterners, I'm still in a New York state of mind, but I'm right where I'm supposed to be today, and that's helped me greatly because 6 and 7 is how I take this whole list of character defects and apply them. And yes, there are things out there I would describe as dysfunctional. Uh, Everything is comparative. I don't have to look far to see people that got it far worse than I do. So, how do I respond to things I disagree with? And the biggest piece of action is to put myself in a spot where I can share this. And I think early on, a sign of when it's time for me to do something, because people are offering it up. Um, they have a saying that, when you have a sponsor, sometimes you get voluntold to do things, but people are sharing very openly what they do. We have this intergroup here. We have committees. This workshop just didn't occur by osmosis. We have 3 people on here today that are just been running at full tilt. Uh, if things can be, if I get a sense it's time to do something, and if it's particularly if it's inconvenient, I know that's exactly what I need to be doing at this moment. And uh, you know what? I have a full life. Does this life, I have, I know what to do. I can travel overseas. Uh, do people understand what I'm doing? Uh, no. But I've been invited to Thanksgiving dinners. I've been not told that uh, you're no fun, Bob. Uh, we have a saying, no offense, ladies, if it's called Jewish mother syndrome. Your grandma made it for you. You know, it's your favorite. Uh, no, I'm no thanks. Sometimes it's all I need to say is I'm on a very restrictive diet. And sometimes I can come flat out and say, no, I've admitted I'm a compulsive overeater, and this is what I have to do. And I say prayer. That's part of my action. Say a prayer. Every time I walk into a circumstance, a situation, encounter someone, and my prayer is very simple today. God help me be useful. Uh,
One
it's
minute.
thanks. Yeah, it says several times throughout our book. By the way, I have been taken through the steps using the book Alcoholics Anonymous, called the Big Book, uh, and it tells me uh, how to pray for people I don't like. Uh, it gives me a lot of things that are solely out of my my comfort zone. Wasn't how I thought I had to. I'm not out there trying to artificially impress. So I'm grateful to be here, and I want to thank Gail and Jerry and Jean that they are our intrepid workshop committee, and we welcome anyone who wants to get involved in a group. We meet at 8:30 East Coast time on the third Thursday of every month. And let one of us know, chat, myself, Gail, Jean, Jerry, chat us your contact information, and we'll put you on our list, and you can dive in and take some action. So that's all I have to share.